one of the most exciting parts of what we're doing here in Borough Hall. And now, when I came in, we decided we were going to really nerd up the place and start doing some policy that was extremely meaningful, that a lot of people might not appreciate initially, but long-term can affect meaningful change for this borough and hopefully this city. As you all know, comprehensive plan is a shared process of defining the future for what we want Brooklyn to look like. It's a data-driven decision-making process that is approaching our disparities holistically. And tonight is an opportunity to review the draft recommendations together and for my office to hear from you. We believe this plan can be used for everyone to find at least one aspect of this plan as an opportunity to collaborate with our office. A wide array of stakeholders, nonprofits, businesses, electeds, can use this plan and this data. It provides guidance for how we will advocate for Brooklyn. Our office is accountable to land use decisions and want to provide predictability for the public. Leading up to this point, we kicked off this effort in February of 2023, establishing the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, consisting of approximately 25 non-for-profits, governmental, academic organizations. The Regional Planning Association and the New York Academy of Medicine were our first technical partners to help us collect our data and heavy existing conditions report. So I don't know if everyone here has gotten the conditions report or seen it. It's a ton of information, and it's extremely valuable, and it's a lot of fun. It's helped us draw connections between the intersection of health and housing. The stark inequalities in health outcomes follow typical patterns of inequality by race and income. And we wanted to just go back, revert back to the times or to the reason why zoning exists in the first place. It was an effort to separate uses in the city of New York so we wouldn't have two family homes sitting next to a garbage incinerator, for example. And we want to get back to that. It was a health-based effort, and we want to get back to making it so that zoning can assist us with improving the health outcomes of our Brooklynites. In December of 2022, we held a town hall on existing conditions. We had about 100 people show up, and it was pretty cool. It was very amazing, and we had some insights. I always talk about the fact that we can say this district has more parks than another district just on acreage. But it would take a local person to tell us, well, we have more parks by acreage, but we'd have no green space. These are all blacktop, basketball courts, handball courts, no grass in this district. And those aspects are important because you won't see that in an existing conditions report. It's just gonna tell you the size of the park, but not that the park doesn't have any grass, for example. So we wanted to get insights from neighbors and from people that are local that can look at something and maybe come to a different conclusion in our existing conditions report. We received great feedback, and we've been incorporating it in the report. The challenges related to affordable housing, safe streets, climate change, and public safety have all come up in the conversations with the public. So naturally, everyone goes to the affordable housing conversation. The safe streets and climate change seem to be the most prominent points that people continue to bring up to us. So naturally, our report is going to make that a prominent part of what you will see through these draft recommendations and ultimately with the final recommendations. So now what we're doing is gathering and incorporating all public feedback through May 31st on the draft recommendations. So we have a couple of weeks left where we're showing you what we're thinking about putting out, what we're thinking about showing the public, but we want to make sure that those recommendations are also looked at by the public. The public is allowed to see them, or this has been on our website for quite some time, so we want to be clear that this is not the only time that people have had an opportunity to have input on the recommendations, but this is the first time that publicly folks are in this building seeing the work that we've done. The final report will be updated with existing conditions and final recommendations to be released this summer, working with our public health partners to identify an implementation strategy that holds our office accountable to the plan. Tonight, we hope you will move around the room and provide written feedback, and there is an opportunity for anyone who wants to provide spoken feedback to go up to the courtroom for testimony. We want to allow for two opportunities here. We're going to record your statements upstairs, where you can go and provide public feedback, and folks can hear what you say, but also we can document it. So we're doing that upstairs. Down here, we're allowing for people to write their ideas on Post-it notes and submitting them. What we've noticed is in public forums like this, there are some people that are really eager to have their voices heard and some people that really like to speak up and that are more, I guess, forward than others. There are other people that never speak up but want to have just as much input, and during a verbal opportunity, just don't do it. And then in some cases, we do get written feedback, but that is very limited. If you have 100 people in a room and 10 people speak, and then we only get 5 recommendations or written feedback online, then we know there's about 70 to 80 people that just didn't get their voices heard. In this case, on time, in real time, you could use a Post-it note. No one's going to hear your voice. No one's going to confront you. It really frees you up to say whatever you want. So please, put whatever you want on those Post-it notes. You could use several of them on the same board, so don't think you got to cram all your ideas into one area. We have another report that we were doing in Coney Island that we used this strategy, and we had a ton of feedback. 400 people showed up to the event, and about 300 people used the Post-it notes, and we were able to document every single one of those. So your voices will be heard, and it will be reflected on our website. So just really want to encourage you to do that. So now I'm going to kick it off to one of our partners that I have a lot of love for, that helped me with a Bushwick community plan that we were putting together when I was a council member. And it's kind of the genesis or the baby, the embryonic stages of development were the Bushwick plans to what we have now, which is a comprehensive plan in Brooklyn. In Bushwick, we were looking to have control over the outcomes of our community. It was not one of the 10 locations that Bill de Blasio looked for development, but Bushwick wanted to get ahead of the game. Can we put a plan together? Can we do something and submit it to the city so they can see what we think the future of our district should look like? We did that. We paid for it. We did so much work, and then we submitted to the city, and they said no. And it kind of is how the city works. I call it the Department of City Zoning, not the Department of City Planning. Planning never happens, and we need to change that. And if you guys know anything about long-term outcomes, if you're just doing spot zonings and you're not accounting for larger issues, the outcomes are going to be exactly what we've seen in these disparities that exist in the city of New York. So again, thank you guys so much, and with you, Hester Street. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. And I just want to, I don't want to thank everybody by name because I'm going to get in trouble, but my team, Borough Hall, has been nothing short of amazing in the work that they've done for this. They've been focused on this. They've been spending a lot of time, and they've really poured their heart and soul into this. And I know they're very proud of it. I hope you see it reflected on the presentations that we are giving you and how open we are to the feedback. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. A special shout out to John Douglas, who is the head of land use in our office. Thank you so much, John, for everything that you're doing. I want to thank Erin and Lacey, who have been supporting folks here. It's just a lot of people. I'm gonna stop there because I already got myself in trouble because I'm not gonna name everyone. But they are amazing, and I'm only as good as my staff, and I hope that you guys can see that. So thank you all, and don't forget to spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Isela Ramirez. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Capacity Building over at Hester Street. We are delighted to be partnering with the Borough President and his incredible staff on this journey to really establish, as he talked about, a guiding document that is going to be informative, that is going to be based not just on the hard data that you see reflected on some of these maps and certainly across the existing conditions report, but that is reflective of people's experience. And really that's why we're here today. We want to make sure, as he said, right, that insight, that lived experience in the block or in your district, in your neighborhood, is not going to come out in the public data that is readily accessible or not, right? Like whether you're a data scientist or not, the map is going to show part of the story, but it's not going to give us the insight that we need, and so that's where your role is so important. Up on the screen, you'll see the engagement process, which is our kind of role in this longer-term process to really inform this office about how to make decisions that are reflective of Brooklynites' priorities, concerns, and to address issues in an effective manner. So to begin, we kind of divided up this engagement process into 4 phases, beginning with kind of looking at the existing conditions report and quickly identifying where are there some issues where we need a little bit more nuance, where we really need to rely on some of the folks that are thinkers, actors, public servants, to nonprofit leaders, folks that are, again, working at the neighborhood level or at the borough-wide level, who might have some insight on some of the things that are not covered on those maps and on that report. And so we established 3 focus groups. Some of y'all were in those, so thank you so much for giving some insight there. Those conversations really then help to shape the recommendations, the draft recommendations that you see across the boards. And then from there, we relied on some of those partners to take those conversations and have meetings of their own to further kind of explore what people were feeling, how the information and the recommendations were landing for them, what was missing, and then to think about what are other important aspects that need to be included. Today, we're at phase 3. We're at this public workshop, again, seeking your input. The digital version of this is our survey that's on the Borough President's website. If you're on their newsletter, you should have gotten already a couple of emails that have a link. Please fill it out. Please share it widely. We want to make sure that we're reaching people extensively in that way who may not be able to come out to join us on a meeting. Today's feedback, just like all the others, right, will, one, report back so that you know that what you said was recorded, that it is reflective of your experience, of your expertise. And as the Borough President said, it'll help to inform the implementation. And this is all stuff that he's already covered, but just to quickly review, the comprehensive plan really aims to provide a guidance for land use so that the Borough President's office and in his decisions and recommendations through the city's land use process are informed, right, and are reflective of his constituents. And this is about, as he said, about accountability and predictability so that you're not shocked. He said what? He voted in which way? He's already kind of going to be voting, right, in the way in which these recommendations and this plan is helping to shape. And lastly, that this is about critical data transparency, right? There are over 100 maps that were generated. And that, again, some of us lived an experience, and then to see it on a map and to really be quantified about the structural racism that permeates our history and is certainly present in our contemporary life. And so these seemingly small and boring decisions actually have a huge impact on our lives as we know it. And so it's important for our leaders to be informed by their constituents' priorities. And just wanted to super underline that this is not a substitute for a New York City comprehensive plan. That would be, probably a 7,500,000 page document just because of the size of our city. And it's certainly not a rezoning. It isn't focused on changing the zoning of a particular neighborhood. Again, this is a guidance. And lastly, it's not complete. All of this is draft, and it's here for your feedback. Be critical. Give us the hard questions as well as those key ideas and insights that might be missing. Lastly, or not lastly, but paired with that, just wanted to also underline, right, that the Brooklyn Borough President's role and how we've framed this process, that there are some issues, some categories in which he has authority over, and then there are some issues that he maybe is not making the final decisions, but he has access and is able to create impact, or separate from that, might also influence, right? He's a natural convener, he's a charismatic speaker, and he's got a huge following, right? And so it's about leveraging those platforms to be able to, again, to lead and to be able to make decisions that are informed, as I've said several times, by his constituents. I just want that to be locked in. This is a tiny list, apologies, but this is also available online. These are the organizations that are helping to shepherd this process. These are organizations that saw a preview of what we were going to show you tonight and that have been tapped across the Borough President's tenure in this office to guide this process. So thank you to all those key institutions. And lastly, before I turn it over to my colleague Cynthia, I just wanted to highlight again that what we're doing here is really facing the facts, right? That inequality exists and that it has existed for quite some time, and that, I'm not going to say anything new. COVID exacerbated all these issues, and so it's heartening and it's also affirming to see these issues reflected on the maps, So thank you, RPA, for your work, and also to the BPO's own mapping abilities to kind of, again, put these on paper to give us a space to think critically about how do we resolve and how do we address these gaps and inconsistencies in health outcomes. So that brings us to what we're going to do today. And so I will pass it on to my colleague, Cynthia.
All right, so thank you, Isela. Hi, everyone. So we set up the room for you all to engage with the posters, with the goals, right? So these are a set of goals, 7 goals, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback. Today is really, that's the purpose. You know, the way that it's organized, and apologies if this is kind of small, but each of the boards are listed here, which is, they're organized by goals, and so the environmental conditions, the goal here is to reduce exposure to hazardous environmental conditions, including those exacerbated by climate change that affect the most vulnerable Brooklynites. There's a series of objectives that follow, and then there's a number of recommendations. Recommendations in terms of land use, in terms of budget, in terms of systemic issues that could be fixed, or that from your vantage point could be addressed. And so what we want to do today is think about in that framing, think about in these recommendations, how can we achieve these goals, and provide your feedback of how we do it. So each of the boards or each of the stations are organized in such a way where you can kind of think about these big questions, provide your feedback, and then kind of move on to the next goal. So I'm just gonna keep on reiterating that, like, this is an important time. We're in a moment of crises especially after the pandemic. Now that outside is open, I think we all need change, and that change comes from you all, right? You are the experts in this, so I think that's why, even going back to what the borough president was saying, bringing it back to the public health lens, and so that's what we want you all to kind of think about as well when when engaging with these boards. So moving on, right, in the second section here is healthcare. The goal here is increase access to quality, affordable healthcare. Active living is stationed right here. Active living, the goal is to encourage and facilitate a lifestyle that prioritizes physical activity in everyday routines to reduce chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, health diseases in Brooklyn. Community service it's here. Community service, the goal is to increase and support local community-based organizations that focus on reducing health disparities in Brooklyn. Housing, jobs, and accessibility are the ones that are stationed outside in the rotunda. Housing the goal is to increase access to safe and healthy and affordable housing. I know we all have opinions, especially on housing. For my housing advocates in the room, we definitely want to hear what you all have to say. Jobs, increase access to employment opportunities and support pathways to well-paying jobs. And accessibility, integrate planning for accessibility. So these are all the goals, and as you're kind of taking in this information and thinking through what are from your expertise, what's some feedback that you can share with us, these are some questions, just some probing questions as you walk around to consider. Do these recommendations adequately address the existing conditions? What are some potential challenges to implement these goals? Who needs to be involved to equitably address the goal? What is missing? So these are some questions that are also pre-populated on these boards. So as you walk around and explore, those are things that we want you to think about. Now, in terms of next steps, as the borough president mentioned, Isela also reiterated, this is a moment for us to collect your feedback to understand where you are, where we all are in this time, in this process. And the way we're doing it is, again, this is the beginning stages of it, thinking about the survey, whether it's taking the survey in person. We have some paper copies here if you want to take that. We also have the QR code in case you want to hop on your phone and do that today. We highly encourage you to take the survey if you haven't done that so already, and also share it with your colleagues, friends, neighbors. Today, provide your feedback, and then there's also testimonies happening. So starting at 7 o'clock, there's testimonies happening upstairs, which is in a couple minutes, so definitely want to offer that as an opportunity to provide feedback as well. So with that, we want to thank you for your time and really encourage you to engage. There's yummy food outside. Please take some refreshments. Please engage. Let's have conversations. Ask questions. There's folks that from the BP staff that are generous with their time to be able to answer some questions that you may have in real time. If there's feedback or things that you think are missing, please state that, add that. This is a collective experience, and in order to have the impact that we want to see, we all have to be part of this change. Thank you all.